Today we're talking about the brand new Sigma 24mm and 20mm f1.4 DGDN. But first, if you're new to the channel, my name is Anson, and on this channel we talk about filmmaking, specifically filmmaking gear, tutorials, and a look at the projects that I'm working on. And so if that's something you're into, consider subscribing. Now, if you're not aware, Sigma just announced two wide-angle lenses to join the DGDN lineup. They announced both the 20mm f1.4 as well as the 24mm f1.4 DGDN. Now, I have had the pleasure of working with these lenses a little bit early so that you guys can see some results with these lenses. But that being said, as always, even though I was sent these lenses from Sigma to test, you are going to get my full and honest opinion, and Sigma's not going to be able to see this review before it does go live. So with that all said, we're going to go ahead and dive into what I think about these lenses, and as always, we're going to break down the review of both of these lenses by the image, the build, and my overall thoughts / who I think they'll be useful for. And let's start by talking about the image. Now, I'll be honest, when I heard that Sigma was announcing a 20mm and a 24mm, I was a little confused because they're both wide-angle lenses. Now, shooting with both of these, I can really see the difference in when you might use one over another. The Sigma 20mm offers a really unique ultra wide image, especially with an f1.4 aperture getting really shallow depth of field. You have the ability to get a really unique image with this. Now, the 24mm on the other hand does give you a little bit more of a standard wide angle look. It's not so extreme like the 20mm, and so if you want an establishing shot that's not ultra wide like the 20mm, the 24mm is going to give you what you may need for that specific type of shot. Now, one thing that blew me away with both of these lenses is the minimum focusing distance. And so that offers the ability to get a really unique shot, especially with the 20mm. Again, if you're trying to get something a little bit more unique, something a little bit different than what may be out there, getting that ultra wide or maybe standard wide angle look with a killer minimum focusing distance, you have the opportunity at that point to get such unique and such just like a different image with these lenses. I noticed very little, if any at all, chromatic aberration on either one of these lenses. These are amazing lenses, super sharp all over the frame. I didn't even mention you don't get a ton of distortion with either one of these lenses. And with a 20mm, that's really impressive that you don't get a ton of distortion. And so with overall performance, I'm just really happy with how these lenses turned out. And so with that said, let's go over and talk about the build of the lenses. There's actually a couple of new features with these two lenses. One is going to be an autofocus lock switch. So not only do you have an autofocus hold button on the lens, but you also have a switch. Being that these were designed for astrophotography, this gives you the ability to obtain focus and then actually lock it in place and leave the camera. That's a really cool feature, especially for time lapses or if you are doing stuff like astrophotography. Now, the Art Series DGDN lenses do have the aperture ring. I have a love-hate relationship with these aperture rings because you do have the ability to control the aperture manually, but it is still digital. And so there is some delay when you change the aperture. And so for filmmakers, what we would like to see from the aperture ring is a more responsive aperture. And maybe that could come with like a software update or something of that nature. But right now, I do like that they're there and I like that I control my aperture, but I would like to see it more responsive if it's still going to be a digital aperture change. You also have a switch on the side that can determine whether the aperture is going to be clicked or declicked. There is also a switch on the other side of the lens that does lock the aperture in place if it's in the auto mode. Obviously, you do have a manual focus and autofocus switch. I should probably mention that first because that's the more common one with all lenses. There's a lot of switches on these lenses. I'm not mad about it, but there's just a lot. Now, talking about some unique aspects of both of these lenses, the 20mm does have a little bit more of a lip to it. It is designed to be able to hold lens warmers or like leggings things. I have never used these, and all I can imagine is like 80s socks in just jazzercise. That's all I can see in my head is jazzercise. Moving on. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that these lenses are equipped with the software update that allows for linear focusing on L-mount cameras, which makes my overall filmmaking experience really nice as far as manually focusing my shot. And so with that, between the image and the build, what are my overall thoughts and who would I recommend these for? Overall thoughts, I kind of said in the image portion of this review. I really do think you're getting an amazing, clean, unique look with either one of these lenses. Now, as far as who I might recommend these for, that is kind of the hard part because I'm talking about two different lenses, and even further than that, two wide angle lenses. And so it kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning, and that is the fact that if you want something a little bit more stylized, if you are doing astrophotography or want that ultra wide angle look, I may look at the 20mm, but if you need something more like a standard wide angle look, maybe for gimbal use or just establishing shots, you want a really good 24mm, a fast 24mm, that's where I might recommend the 24mm over the 20mm. And so if either one of these lenses meet your needs, I would absolutely check out either the 20mm f1.4 or the 24mm f1.4 DGDN from Sigma. And so that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like. And if you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. As always, if you do have any more questions, let me know in the comments below. And with that being... As always, thank you for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Peace.